then used back 7 straight points to put the game out of reach.
Hello everyone, this is Mammy Grass. So today is Friday, so that means another class for me. I am Mammy Grass, a homeschooling mom of Nereus and Ian, and today I'm going to demonstrate or show you my process for creating hair clips using resin, okay, epoxy resin. Alright, so in the previous clip, you saw some of the works that I did in the past few weeks. So I'm going to show you just one thing, that one project that I usually make using resin, which is hair clips. But I might also show you how I make my pendants, because there could be excess resin. I don't want to throw out the excess resin, so that's why there might be another project that I will demo today, depending on the amount of resin that is left over in my mixing cup. Okay, so before I proceed, let me just show you some of my materials for when I am creating my resin projects. Okay, I learned how to do resin in 2017. There was a teacher who offered this class, and I paid for that class and was able to learn how to make resin pendants and resin cell phone case. But I never got the chance to actually expand my resin business after 1 year, because I got busy with my work as a full-time geologist in a company. So then this year I decided to resume my projects, and I was able to sell a lot of my resin projects at Shopee. I will put the link to my shop in the description box below, and I hope you'll visit it and hope you find something that you'll be interested to buy, because by buying from that shop, you're able to support me and my artworks. I buy my art materials through the proceeds from that Shopee store. Okay, so let me go over the materials. Aside from the class that I attended, I also bought this book by Sarah Neumann, which is How to Make Resin Jewelry. Okay, so this has like 50 projects that you can make with resin. I've done a few of these projects. They're so basic, so I'm sure all of you out there who are beginners in resin will benefit from reading this project book. Okay, so there you can use books. You can also find inspiration in Pinterest. Okay, and then aside from the book, you also need to have first your PPEs. When you are mixing your resin, you have to have a pair of gloves. It could be nitrile, it could be silicone, it could be rubber gloves. So wear your gloves while you are mixing and preparing your resin, because resins, epoxy resins, and the hardeners are still chemicals. Though there are non-toxic versions, I use non-toxic versions. They can still be irritating to the skin, especially for those who have sensitive skin. I also wear masks. I sometimes double my mask, because my resin doesn't have a smell, but still, since it's chemical, I'm not sure if there are gases that come out of resin that might be, I might be sensitive to. Well, at the same time, I actually add some glitters into my resin sometimes, so I don't wanna inhale those glitters. Okay, I also have bamboo wipes, wet wipes with me for cleaning up the mixing cups, as well as taking out the spills that may overflow from adding too much resin on my molds. Which brings me to my molds. So molds are basically what I use to shape my resin. Okay, so it's what holds the resin. so that you have the shapes that you desire. So for example, this is for hair clips. This is silicone molds for various pendants that I do for my project. I will show you some of my finished projects in the next part of this video. And this is my silicone mold for bookmarks. So these are silicone molds that you can use over and over again. And you have to clean them, of course, each time using your wet wipes. Then I also have measuring cups for measuring the epoxy resin and hardener. This is the epoxy that I use for soft resin projects, meaning for resins that doesn't need to be really stiff. For example, yung hair clips, I don't want to use the hard cure type of resin because they can be very sharp, can have the tendency to have sharp edges. And if kids are wearing the hair clips, I don't want them to cut themselves, their skin, when wearing the hair clips. But of course, there's a way around it. You can just buff your resin projects, but that's for an advanced class. Okay, so this is very basic class of resin jewelry making. I also have this gold foil for when designing my resin. My mixing cup, which is also silicone, and I clean this. I often clean this and wash it with soapy water. Then another silicone cup for pouring. Okay, so I also use this one. I also have this for adding elements into my resin. I actually use wooden mixing stick for when I'm mixing my resin. But you can also use a plastic spoon and you can clean it up after for reusing later. I often add flowers into my resin projects. As you have probably seen in my previous clips, I buy this from Shopee, but you can also dry press your own flowers if you live in a place where there are plenty of flowers that you can pick or buy. I also use heat gun for removing bubbles of my resin. So one of the things that resin jewelry makers struggle with is the formation of bubbles in their resin. One of the last thing you'd want in your resin project are bubbles. So I will show you how to remove those bubbles using heat gun. And then I also have mica that I can add as colorant for my resin projects, but I'm not gonna use this today. This is for artistic purposes for when you're designing your projects. So I think that is for an advanced class. For now, I will use glitters. This one is ombre glitter. It changes the color. It changes its color when the light hits at different angles, which I will show you after the project is done or after the resin has cured. Okay, so I think I have gone over my materials already. Oh, another thing that you can actually wear as PPE is a pair of apron. Not the one that you use for cooking, but another pair of apron that you use when you're doing other things. Okay, like for example, in this project, you have to have a separate apron, not the ones that you're using for cooking. Okay, so there you have it. Those are just the basic materials that I use for resin projects. So in the next part of this video, I will show you how I measure my resin and mix it. Again, your resin is two parts. One part is epoxy resin, which is the epoxy, and one is the hardener. Okay, different brands would have different ratio. For example, for this one, which I bought from Shopee, this is a soft cure resin, and part A is when I usually pour 25 ml of part A to 10 ml of this part B or hardener. There's another brand that I like, but it's hard to find here in the country. This is Easy Cast. This has expired already. As you can see, the hardener is already yellowed because I bought this in 2017. I still have it because I can still use this for colored resin projects, but I chose not to. So this one is, you can mix this at 1:1 ratio, meaning if you use 10 ml of part A, you need to add 10 ml, same volume of part B. Okay, so this is kind of hard to find in the country. I actually saw one in the Avir, but they sold out pretty quickly. So I'm now using other brand, which is this one. Okay, I have another brand which is a hard cure resin. It really dries hard, but that's for advanced class for this resin. For now, let's make do with what we have right now for when we are creating, or for when I'm doing this hair clips. Alright, so see you later. Hello, I'm back. I forgot to mention that you need to also wear your eyewear or eyeglasses or goggles to protect your eyes in case there's a spill, or you know, a bit of resin ricochets towards your eye. At least your eyes are protected. You don't want resin going into your eyes, because still, well, I don't know what will happen, but I bet it's irritant. If it's irritant on the skin, then it will be irritating for your eyes as well. So you don't want that happening, okay? So you protect your eyes using goggles or a pair of glasses. Now let's proceed to, I'm already wearing my mask and my gloves. Alright, so let's now pour our resin. So I'm going to use 25 ml of this, which is this epoxy. So let's measure that. Let's see if it's gonna, it's almost empty. Let's see if we have enough of this epoxy. Otherwise, I'm going to get another bottle. Okay, 25 ml of this. This one has a bit of smell, so if you're not used to, it's like smells like cuticle paint. Let me just get another bottle of this. Okay, so I have another bottle of my epoxy because the other one is empty. Okay, it's the same brand actually. Oops, sorry about that. Oops, there's a bit of spill. Okay, so this is 25 ml. That's okay, 25 ml. Okay, that's 25 ml. So now let's measure 10 ml of this hardener. Okay. That's why you need a measuring cup that has these lines that indicate the volume, because when mixing resin, it can be really you need to be really you need to strictly follow the instruction, because the manufacturers know the ingredients for the resin and the part that you're mixing them. So you need to follow the instruction really strictly. Alright. So now I have 10 ml of the hardener. We just grab a piece of the wet wipes because I spilled a bit of the epoxy resin in my gloves. So I don't want that spreading on my other stuff. Okay? So that's the function of the wet wipes. And don't worry, that wet wipes is made of bamboo fibers. If my voice is a little weird, it's because I'm wearing a mask. Okay? So now, let's add this to, okay, the epoxy and the hardener into this mixing cup. So the mixing cup is silicone. I'll show you how I clean it later. Actually, it's basically just using the wipes, wiping the epoxy resin off, and then putting plenty of soapy water inside. So I reuse my measuring cups and my mixing cups. Okay? And also make sure that you are getting the most out of this resin, because remember, the volume has to be exact. Okay? Okay? Next is pour in the hardener. And then after I pour in the hardener, you have to set your timer to 5 minutes. For this brand, it's 5 minutes. So, the time starts as soon as you start mixing your resin. So, I will ask Google to set the timer for me. Hey Google, set an alarm after 5 minutes.
12:05 p.m. Set.
Okay, so now I'm mixing my my resin and my hardener. When you are mixing your resin, it should be done a little bit slow, like when you are stirring your coffee. Okay, so you stir like as if you're stirring your coffee. Okay, I saw that there's an ant. We will remove that later. Okay, so I'm mixing it while also occasionally scraping the sides of the mixing cup to make sure that it doesn't harden on the sides, and the mixture is thoroughly mixed, because some of the reasons why epoxy doesn't cure completely, or it cures soft, is because of the improper mixing. So the proper way of mixing this is by stirring it slowly while also scraping the sides and the bottom of your mixing cup, like what I'm doing right now. Okay, so one of the things that's so tricky about resin is that if it's not mixed properly, it doesn't cure hard. At the same time, you get plenty of bubbles. So basically, when that happens, sometimes you need to throw away your project. So that's one thing that I really don't like, because it's an added trash, right? So that's why resin is one of the hardest, well, not really the hardest, but basically one of the projects that I have experienced so much frustration, especially when bubbles develop or when the resin doesn't cure properly, and it happened to me quite a number of times already. So when you do see people who sell resins and you find them expensive, at least now you know the reason. Resin artists actually experience so many frustrations while doing their projects. So be nice to them. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Resin jewelry making is a little hard, especially at first, because you know it has a steep learning curve, in my experience at least. Okay, so there you have it. So I am also stirring and scraping the sides, right? And you can see that there's already if you can see that there's already a little bit of bubbles forming in the resin. We will try to remove that using the gun. Okay. So let me just pause the camera so don't get bored with mixing. So I'm still mixing. Let me just get my gloves. I only just unpause the camera. Okay. Okay, time is up. Hey Google, stop the alarm. So let's just allow that to sit for a while, for a few minutes, while we decorate our mold. Okay, so for the mold, you need a scissor. Okay, so let me just grab my scissor to cut the flowers because the whole flower will not fit in the mold, right? So let me just do that here. Okay, so I remove my gloves because it's easier to work for me if I'm not wearing them. But I'm careful not to touch the resin while my gloves are out or off my hands. And then you can just add the leaves here. For example, okay, here as well. And then just for the purpose of this demo, you can add a bit of glitters in some of the molds. Okay, or a few molds. Okay, so I'm using this ombre. Let me just grab I actually use a piece of toothpick for getting the glitters out and putting them in the molds. Okay, so the instruction is to add the glitters on the mold, but you can also actually add the glitters in the pouring cup, which I have here on the side. Okay, so let me just do that here, and then let's also add a bit of this. Oh no, let's not add that kasi ano pala, there's only a limit to what you're adding in your resin, because if you add so many additives, that affects the curing time and the hardness of your resin. Okay, so let me just add more flowers in some of the molds like this. Okay, so it's really up to you how you decorate your flowers. It's up to your artistic discretion. So here I'm just adding on the sides. Okay, and then let's just add a bit of leaves here. I will also use this toothpick later for when I am poking the bubbles out, popping the bubbles out, as well as for arranging the flowers in case they float to the surface. Okay, so here you go. Let's add more leaves here. Honestly, sometimes even with the best mixing practice, sometimes resin would cure differently. I don't know if it's also due to the weather or what, but I tell you what, this can be really frustrating at times. So you just need to be really patient when you are doing resin jewelry. Okay, the materials can be a little expensive. For example, this mold that you have in front, the hair clip mold, is about 80 pesos, I think, per piece. Okay, so yeah, if you're ready to invest, the resin would cost you around, for this one, the set is about 500. Okay, the set is for about 500. That's already about 500 ml, 400 ml epoxy resin, and 100 ml hardener. So, okay, patience when you are dealing with resin. Okay, and then I want to add a bit of gold foil for this, because purple and gold looks nice together. It's sort of imperial gold. In some countries, gold and purple is imperial colors. So let's try that. Okay. Let's add more flowers. Okay, so this is we're just allowing the resin to let go of its bubbles, and you can do that by putting it on standby for just a few minutes. Just a few minutes, okay? Because if you allow it to stand by for say an hour, that will solidify in your mixing cup. Okay, so let me just okay, so I'm just doing this rather fast because I don't want the resin to solidify. You can do this in advance, that's fine as well, but I was excited to mix the resin, so there you go. Okay, so let me just put that here inside. Just add. Okay, so we're doing just a simple design for this hair clips. Okay, nothing complicated. We're just adding a bit of foil and flower petals into the mold. Okay, let's do that. Okay, and then let's pour in the resin into the this pouring cup, okay, that has been added with glitters. Right, so let's remove that ant. There's a piece of ant. Okay, so let's mix that a bit. Okay, so I'm just mixing the glitter into the resin until it's fully mixed, and then let's just pour the resin mixture with resin and glitter mixture on the mold. Okay, hope you can see that. Okay, let me just move this forward so that you can see, because my camera is overhead, so I can't actually see if you're okay. I think you can see that. So let's just pour more resin into this pouring cup. So I'm calling this pouring cup, but you can actually use this as mixing cup as well for small volume of resin and epoxy hardener. Okay, there you go. Can you see that? Okay, let me just move this forward. Okay, let's move this forward a bit. Okay, there you go. So these are the molds for hair clips. Of course, you would need hair clip blanks to use this. So I will show you in the next part of this video the hair clips blank. Alright, so don't worry, I'm gonna show you everything. Okay, so there you go. I am pouring another layer of resin, but this one here needs one layer first. Forgot, I almost missed that. Okay, so my hands are shaking. I actually have CTS. Okay, so let's pour another layer of the resin here. Another layer so that it has some sort of curved surface. Okay. So pardon that, my hands are shaking. I just practiced on my ukulele, so I'm a little, my wrists are a little tired. Okay. Also, this is a little wobbly. It's actually soft. It looks sturdy, but it's actually soft. So I have to be careful when pouring my resin off this silicone pouring cup. Okay. So now let's add another layer of my resin here. I'll show you how I fix my design using the toothpick. Okay. It's really good because I don't observe any bubbles. But I will show you how to use the heat gun anyway for projects like this. Just for demo purpose. But I am not observing any bubbles in my resin. That's because we have allowed it to sit for a few minutes while I was decorating my silicone molds. Okay, so I'm just moving the flowers around so that there's a bubble, so that the resin completely covers it. You don't want your flowers or your elements that you have added in your mold poking out of the resin, because that's gonna stick out. It's not, doesn't look good if some of your petals are sticking out. Okay, so you need to soak them completely in resin, okay, so that they solidify inside the resin, the resin itself. Okay, so this one needs a bit of layer, second layer or third layer. Okay, so you just add more. Okay, and then I'll move the petals around because it's sticking out. So this is a time that having another having toothpick really helps. Having a toothpick on hand helps because you can poke your petals, you can move the petals around so that they don't stick out of the resin. Okay, which they happen to do sometimes because petals are light, so they tend to move to the surface if you're not careful. So you need to observe your resin also while they are curing. Okay, so just like that. Okay. I think I still have a resin left, so let me just grab my pendant. Let me just grab my pendant so that we make another. Let's make pendant. Okay. Oops. So this is my pendant mold. Let's move the resin. Careful not to touch your resin while it's still curing. So this is gonna take about 24 to 28 hours of curing based on my experience. So don't touch it while it's curing. All right. So you don't want to touch that because it's gonna stick in your hand as well as it's gonna destroy your resin if you don't cure it properly. Alright, so let me just do this pendant here, and let's add some leaves. Okay, let's add some, say, okay, let's add this white here. Okay, just add it there. And then a bit of the spine. Let's see if that's gonna, okay, like that. Okay, so that looks nice. Again, this is very basic. I didn't wear my gloves, sorry about that, but the cup is dry on the side, so I'm not worried about getting resin on my hands. Let me just grab that sink. So poor ant, she got into my resin. I'm so sorry. Okay, so there you go. This is my pendant. Hope you can see that. Let me just move my camera a bit to the side so that you'll see that I added the flowers and a piece of pine leaf into my pendant mold. So this is my pendant mold. So there's some different shapes of pendant in here. Okay. Just grab. Let's wear my gloves because I might accidentally touch my resin. I don't want that in my hands. So let me just pour some of the leftover resin here. Still here, okay? For added glitter. Okay, this one has a bit of glitter. Okay. So to make sure that we have already used up our resin. Okay, that's empty. So there you go. That's those are the resin that's on my mold. That's how simple it is. The tricky part is actually mixing the resin properly. But if you have mixed it successfully, you will know once the resin has cured. So let me just demonstrate how I take out the bubbles. So basically, it's very simple. You just need to hang on. So I just plugged my heat gun. And to remove the bubble, you just simply need to move the heat gun around your resin a few centimeters distance. Okay, just to make sure that none of the bubbles stay under or within your resin. Okay, like I said, none of the bubbles are in my resin because I let it stand for a few minutes after mixing. So one of the things that you can do when there's a bit of spill like this is to move it around using the heat gun. Here you go. Just grab that. Okay, just to make sure that it moves towards the side. Okay, there's a spill, but you can also. Okay, so there's no bubble. I just demonstrated how you can actually take care of the bubbles, pop the bubbles out. But there's a bit of spill here, so if you observe some spill, you can just use your wet wipes to get the spill out. You don't want those. You don't want your resin spilling out because it's hard to take them out once they have solidified, once they have cured. You would need to cut them with a very sharp cutter. At the same time, you'd need to use polishing material, polishing wax, and 1000 grit polishing pod, because those will solidify sharp those little spills. So you want to take care of them while they're still in the liquid state. Okay, you don't want them solidifying those little spills. Okay, so I'm just taking it off using my wet wipes. So this is the tricky part also, fixing those little mess. Okay. Yeah, let me just grab my so yeah, so sometimes this happens, the spills. Okay. Anyway, so I'm okay actually. I can just move this around a bit. I think my table is not as flat as I'd want to, so it's not as flat as it should be. Ideally you would want to work in a really flat table or surface so that your resin will cure flat as well. Okay, you don't want the other side elevated, or you don't want unequal thickness for your resin, but it happens sometimes. So there you go. So that's it. After that, you need to wait for this type of resin. I would need to wait 24-28 hours for this totally cure, and then sometimes it takes me about 2 days. I let it sit for 2 days or more before I actually put them on hair clips blank. Okay, so in the third part of this video, I'm going to show you how I assemble the hair clips once this resin have totally cured, which Again, gonna take me about 2 days. Okay, so I'll be back after 2 days. Hey everyone, I'm back. So I am happy to announce that the resins that we made the other day is successful. So they have successfully cured into this really nice clips. Okay, there you go. So I'm removing the resins out of the mold. It's quite easy to remove them. There you go. So we are at the final stage of how I assemble resin hair clips. Alright, so as you can see, it has cured really nicely. Okay, look at that, so nice. Okay, there you go. This one is a bit of this one is also cool. It's perfect except for a few just minor I need to polish the sides of this, but this one's really formed well. So I will demonstrate how to assemble the hair clips. Okay, so for this we would need hair clips blank such as this one. Okay, so for this I will glue this one here, and for this one I'll be using this kind of blank. Okay, there you go. And for this one I will use this alligator clip, also gold. So there are two types that I have at the moment, silver color and gold color. Okay, so these are hair clips blank. And then if you remember, I also made pendants. So as you can see, it is also solidified well. Okay, here you go, so nice. But I find that this one needs additional resin on top to make it to form a bit of dome on it. So I'm not gonna assemble this into a pendant yet, but just to show you for the purpose of this video, I actually have this set of bail. Let me just demonstrate how I add the bail on my resin pendant. So let's choose this one, silver color. I just open this up a bit, and then I then push these pins into the hole of the pendant. Okay, like so. And there you have it. But as like I said, I won't be doing this. I'll remove the veil again. I will not assemble this into pendant yet because I still need to add more resin on this to make a dome structure or dome feature, because I want my pendants to be not really flat but more like I want them to have dome surface. Okay, so I'm gonna return this and I'm gonna assemble I'm gonna mix another batch of resin and put more on this pendants. Okay, so the main topic for today is how to do this, how to assemble this into hair clips. It's very simple, it's fairly straightforward. What I will use to glue them on the blanks is this UV resin type. Okay, so this is a type of resin that cures using UV rays, or the rays of the sun. But I prefer to actually cure this using this UV lamp. I have a UV lamp here. It's colored pink. It has a tray that slides out. Because if I usually when you cure UV resin using the sun, the surface is not even. Okay, so I don't want that, because I'm going to use this not for making another one of this, but for gluing in my resin into the blanks. Okay, so let's start. So for this, so I've decided that this is going to be the surface of the hair clips. Okay, and then I will just add some UV resin on this. I also forgot to mention that I have this apple green silicone silicone sheet, so to protect my work table. As you can see, this is my work table for my painting. So I am using this table I'm using this silicone cover to protect my table from having resin spills. Okay, so from resin spills. Okay, so what I did, I just added UV resin into this over on the top or on the bottom of the my resin clip, and then I just put the blank. Okay, let's do that. Let's do another one here. So I am adding UV resin. You can actually use super glue for this, but I don't have one, so I'm using my UV resin for this purpose. Okay, and so far it has worked so well. That's why I'm just doing what I usually do. I use UV resin for gluing in my clips. And let me just add this one here. This is a bit tricky because sometimes the UV the resin sort of slides down my clip, so I have to be careful that it doesn't happen while they are curing inside my UV lamp. Okay, so I'll just slide them in my UV lamp. Okay, and there you have it. So this is gonna cure. Let me just show you the inside of my UV lamp. It actually has UV lamps inside, bulbs that provides UV rays. Obviously, electric UV rays or UV rays from lamps. And this one cures my UV resin. Okay. There you go. I'm also not wearing gloves because I'm trying to be careful also. But for those who are new to resin and you know, might be a little clumsy because they're doing this for the first time, I really recommend that you wear your gloves so you don't spill any on your fingers. Okay, so for this one, I need to polish the sides a bit, so because this has a little bit of spill the last time I made this, so I'll just polish this first before I put them into clips, the clip blanks. Okay, but they're so nice, no? You can see they're so nice. They have this glittery effect. The glitters actually change its color. That's why I love using that glitter. It's a little pricey compared to mica, but I like the effect it has on when added to resin. Okay, so let's just give this about 5 minutes to cure. Okay, let me pause the camera so that you don't get bored waiting for the resin to cure. So I noticed that one of the excess in this hair clip is a little thin, so I think I can just remove it using a scissor. Yeah, that's fixed already. So okay, another excess here. So you can use scissor or cutter for this. Yeah, so now it's perfect, no more excess. Okay, so let me just check whether our resin is already hardened. Oh yeah. Okay, so now we have this clip. Here you go. How nice is that? Yeah. So let's do these 2 clips also. Let me just turn off the lamp so that you save power. And let's make more hair clips. Just put some UV resin underneath the this clips. Okay. Then let's add the blanks. Okay. So yeah, this process is really fairly straightforward. The hardest part really when making your hair clips is the mixing of resin. It's the trickiest part, but once your resin have solidified or have cured perfectly, you know, not sticky but really solid, no bubbles whatsoever, then you're happy. I am happy when that happens. So there you go. just gonna slide it very carefully. I don't want the clip sliding down. I want it centered. Okay, so there, it's curing. But look at this, look at that, it's so nice. Yeah, so if you have, you know, if you're if you know someone is getting married and she wants a unique jewelry for her entourage, then these hair clips are really nice. Okay, because they're also floral. Okay, but you can add any elements into this, like glitters, beads, thin beads, you know, small beads, small. You can even add pictures, little pictures or cutouts from magazine. I've tried that before. There's another process for doing that, but I think it's for advanced class. But here you go. This is the hair clips. So yeah, there's another option that you can also try. This is French clip. Okay, so this is French clip. So you can also add this type of clip onto this if you want, but I actually prefer this one, alligator clips. Okay, so the other clip is curing, and that's all really. That's the last part of this lesson, and I hope you learned something from me today, and I hope you'll give this a try. If you do share your photos, your output in my group. If you don't know, if you're on YouTube right now, do visit our Facebook group, Arts and Crafts by Mami Grass. I post lessons there, watercolor lessons, watercolor painting, painting lessons, and arts and crafts every Friday. I have assembled that group for homeschooling families, but everyone is welcome there so long as you know you're a real person, because I actually check anyone who joins in the group. Okay, so with that, I hope that you learned something from me today, and I hope to see you next week Friday for another fun class. It's gonna be a watercolor painting class. I'm still deciding what subject to paint, so do join us if you want to learn about watercolor painting. It's really fun, and I hope you will join. Okay, so bye for now. Stay safe and healthy.